In
the stars
April
above the great
1912,
chamber of
the
the
world
Galactic
saw the
Council
greatest
burned
ship
like cold
ever built,
fire,
Titanic.
displayed on a massive
They
screen
called it
that hung behind the
unsinkable.
speakers. But
Hundreds
hundreds of
behind
alien
its
races
shining
sat
lights
in the
were
curved
secrets
hall,
too dark
their
to
voices
reveal.
echoing with
That
laughter
night,
and
when
whispers.
Titanic sailed
At the
into
center
the
of their
Atlantic,
mockery
it
was
carried
a single
more than
blue
passengers.
planet. At the
It
edge
carried
of
a
the
truth
spiral
the world
arm.
was never
They
meant
called
to
it
know.
Earth, a world they believed was weak, primitive, and unworthy of respect. To the Council, Earth was nothing more than a backwater planet with a violent history, a fractured society, and outdated technology. It was, in their eyes, a child trying to play in a game of titans. One counselor, a tall insectoid creature with glittering wings, rose and sneered. "These humans believe they matter," it said, its voice echoing through translation machines. "But they have no place among the stars. They are fragile, divided, and ignorant. Their ships are toys compared to our fleets." The chamber erupted in cruel laughter, as others added their insults. A scaled being with burning red eyes leaned forward. "We should teach them their place. A single strike would crush their armies. They have spirit, yes, but no strength to back it. They will kneel like all the others did before us." The laughter grew louder. The galaxy had seen many species rise and fall, but none had amused them quite like humans. In their arrogance, the great powers believed Earth would be no different. The Council recorded Earth's wars, its endless conflicts, and its fragile peace treaties. To them, it was proof of weakness. Humanity, they said, was too busy fighting itself to ever stand against the galaxy. Yet in the shadows of that chamber, there were a few who did not laugh. A quiet reptilian delegate whispered to his aide, "They mock them too easily. I have studied these humans. Their history is written in fire and survival. They do not surrender the way others do." But his voice was lost in the noise of ridicule. The majority of the galaxy could not see the danger hidden behind human eyes. On Earth itself, humanity was unaware of the laughter echoing among the stars. People lived their lives as they always had, working, building, arguing, dreaming. They did not know that entire civilizations debated their worth. They did not know they were being judged, mocked, and dismissed as a weak species unworthy of the galactic stage. But Earth was not as defenseless as the Council believed. In secret, beneath oceans, mountains, and hidden stations in orbit, humanity had been preparing. They had seen the stars, and they understood one truth better than most species. Survival was never given, it was taken. Every empire that had mocked Earth did not yet know the cost of such arrogance. In the Council chamber, the insectoid speaker waved a hand and brought up an image of Earth's fleets. Compared to the shining armadas of the galaxy, they looked small, outdated, and crude. The aliens roared with laughter again. "Look at their ships," another delegate shouted. "Engines built from scrap, weapons from the last age of war. They are nothing." "Yes," the insectoid agreed. "They are ants before giants. If they dare to challenge us, we will crush them in a single day." The counselors slammed their claws, hands, and tendrils against their seats in agreement. The decision was almost made. A test fleet would be sent to Earth, a small strike to remind them of their place. The galaxy believed this would be enough to make humans bow. None of them realized that they were writing the first lines of a story that would haunt them for centuries. Deep in the Council records, one ancient voice spoke before the meeting ended. It came from a species old enough to remember when underestimating an enemy had cost them everything. The voice was calm, almost weary. "Be careful," the elder said. "Mockery blinds the eye. Humanity may appear weak, but I see danger in their past. I see fire that does not die. Do not mistake silence for submission." But the warning was ignored. The chamber had already filled with the sound of arrogance and laughter. Humanity was nothing, they said. Humanity was weak, they believed. Humanity was doomed, they declared. Yet far away, on that small blue planet called Earth, a quiet storm was building. The humans had been underestimated before. Throughout their history, empires had mocked them, enemies had thought them broken, and still humanity had risen every time, stronger and more dangerous than before. The galaxy did not yet know this truth. But soon, they would. The council left the chamber believing they had won before the war even began. They believed Earth would fall with the first strike. But in their pride, they made the greatest mistake of all. They had mocked humanity, and humanity would prove them deadly wrong. The decision was made quickly in the Galactic Council. Earth would be taught a lesson. No great armada was needed, they thought. A single strike force would be enough to crush this primitive world and remind its people of their place. The counselors laughed as the fleet departed, convinced that the humans would tremble and bow at the first sight of true galactic power. The ships that moved toward Earth were not the most advanced, but even their outdated technology was centuries ahead of human weapons. Their commanders saw the mission as a game, a chance to amuse themselves. In their arrogance, they named it Operation Silence, believing that Earth's voice would vanish after the first blow. In orbit around the blue planet, Earth's satellites detected the incoming fleet long before it arrived. The news reached governments and militaries within hours, and for the first time in generations, humanity stood together. Nations that had once argued now shared intelligence. Enemies who had distrusted each other now exchanged data. The world realized it was facing something greater than war with itself. It was facing extinction. Human fleets assembled with speed that shocked even their own leaders. Old warships were pulled from docks, experimental crafts were rushed into service, and defense systems hidden deep within mountains and oceans powered up for the first time. Humanity was not ready, but humanity was willing. When the alien fleet entered the solar system, their scanners laughed at what they saw. Small ships with crude armor, outdated engines, and weapons that looked more like relics than tools of war. The alien commander sneered. "Pathetic," he said to his crew. "This will be over in a single strike." But as the battle began, the story changed. Human ships moved like wolves cornered by a greater predator. They fought with fury, throwing themselves into impossible battles. Missiles fired in desperate waves, railguns roared, and even outdated fighters dove fearlessly into the jaws of alien warships. The aliens had expected surrender. Instead, they found resistance. They mocked the humans' crude tactics, but as the hours passed, their amusement turned into irritation. Human ships refused to retreat even when damaged beyond saving. Crews stayed at their stations, firing until their weapons melted or their hulls cracked apart. Some ships rammed directly into alien cruisers, sacrificing themselves to cripple enemy shields. The Council had told the galaxy that Earth was weak, but on the battlefield, weakness was nowhere to be seen. Strength burned in human defiance, a strength the aliens had not expected. The alien commander grew restless. Losses were minor compared to his fleet's size, but something about the humans unsettled him. "They are reckless," one officer said. "They fight like they do not fear death." The commander frowned. "No, they fight like death is not enough to stop them." On Earth, billions watched the skies with fear and hope. News spread of human ships holding longer than anyone believed possible. Heroes were born in the chaos, captains who led their crews against impossible odds, pilots who flew their fighters into enemy engines, soldiers who activated ancient defense satellites with codes that had not been used in decades. The alien fleet advanced, but it advanced slowly. Every kilometer toward Earth was paid for in blood and wreckage. The Council had promised a quick victory. Instead, the battle became a grinding storm that refused to end. In the council chamber, reports of the fighting reached the delegates. Many still laughed. "It changes nothing," one said. "They lose ships every hour. Their fleets will be ash by dawn." But the laughter did not hide the truth. Behind the numbers was something no report could fully explain. Humanity was fighting with a madness that the galaxy had rarely seen. They should have surrendered. They should have begged. Instead, they bit down on their fear and fought with every scrap of strength they had. On the edge of the battlefield, alien sensors picked up something strange. A small distortion, almost too faint to notice. The commander at first ignored it, thinking it was debris or a dying reactor. But as minutes passed, the distortion grew. Alarms flared. His crew shouted in confusion. "Something is coming through the void," one officer yelled. "It does not match human technology." The distortion exploded in a flash of light, and from the shadows emerged a ship unlike any they had ever seen. It was massive, crude in design, but terrifying in presence. Plates of reinforced armor wrapped around its hull, glowing with the heat of experimental engines. Weapons lined its sides like jagged teeth. It did not look graceful or advanced, it looked dangerous, like a predator built by desperation. The alien commander felt unease for the first time. "What is that?" he whispered. On Earth, the world watched in silence as the hidden project, humanity's secret weapon, revealed itself. 4 years, scientists and engineers had worked in secret bunkers, designing something not meant for exploration or trade, but for survival. It was not elegant like alien warships, but it was brutal, practical, and deadly. The aliens had come to mock Earth, but now they were staring at something that should not have existed, something born from the very weakness they had laughed at. The humans had turned their weakness into strength. And as the new ship prepared to fire, the galaxy began to realize its mistake. The battlefield fell silent for a moment as the strange human warship emerged from the distortion. Even the alien crews, who had laughed at Earth only hours before, stared at the sight in disbelief. The ship was unlike anything they had seen in the galaxy. It was not elegant or advanced like their own fleets. Its shape was rough, its armor thick and uneven, its engines glowing with unstable power, but there was something in its design that made even the most experienced alien captains uneasy. It looked less like a vessel and more like a weapon forged in desperation. The alien commander tried to steady his voice. "It is just one ship," he said, though he felt doubt in his words. "Destroy it." His fleet moved to obey, weapons charging, but the human ship struck first. With a deep roar that shook the void itself, it unleashed a barrage of railgun slugs the size of buildings, each one moving faster than sound, each one wrapped in energy fields that ripped through shields like paper. The first alien cruiser was torn apart in seconds, its hull breaking into fire and debris. Before the aliens could recover, missiles launched in great swarms, weaving through space with unpredictable paths, overwhelming point defenses and slamming into their targets. 3 more ships exploded, and the alien commander's calm shattered. "What is this thing?" his officers shouted, panic spreading through the bridge. "It should not exist. No primitive world could build this." But humanity had built it. 4 years, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy, scientists and engineers had poured their knowledge into Project Guardian, a weapon of last resort. It was not beautiful, it was not advanced by galactic standards, but it was brutal and effective. The ship carried weapons the galaxy had abandoned long ago, weapons too dangerous, too unstable for cautious civilizations to use. But humans had no such fear. They had taken every scrap of knowledge, every lesson from centuries of war, and turned it into a vessel that could stand against giants. On Earth, the world watched in awe as their creation proved its worth. News broadcasts carried images of the battle, showing alien ships breaking apart under the fire of their hidden weapon. People who had once been afraid now felt pride and fury burning in their hearts. They had been mocked, humiliated by a galaxy that saw them as nothing, but now humanity was striking back. The alien fleet regrouped, surrounding the human warship, but every attack they launched was met with equal or greater force. Their energy weapons burned against its armor, but the thick plates absorbed the damage, glowing red yet holding strong. Their missiles detonated against its shields, but the ship roared forward through fire, answering with salvos that tore ships apart. Slowly, the tide of battle began to shift. For the first time, alien losses were greater than human losses. Reports reached the Galactic Council, and the laughter that had filled their chamber only a day before now turned to silence. Delegates leaned forward in shock as they watched the images. A single ship, from a world they had mocked as primitive, was tearing apart one of their fleets. Fear spread like wildfire. "Impossible," whispered a counselor. "Humans cannot build such a weapon. They are centuries behind us." But the truth was undeniable. Humanity had found strength where others saw weakness. Their history of war, their endless struggle for survival, had taught them lessons the galaxy had forgotten. Where others sought perfection, humans built resilience. Where others abandoned dangerous technology, humans perfected it. Where others surrendered, humans endured. Back in the battle, the alien commander realized the fight was no longer a simple lesson for Earth. It had become a war for survival. "Retreat," he ordered, but retreat came too late. The human warship targeted his flagship with its main cannon, a weapon so powerful that it bent the void as it charged. The beam erupted in a blinding flash, cutting through space itself, and the commander's ship vanished in an explosion that lit the skies of Earth brighter than the sun. Silence fell once more. The surviving alien ships scattered, fleeing into the void, their pride shattered. The humans did not chase, their forces were too damaged, too exhausted. But they had won. Against all odds, against all expectations, they had stood against the galaxy and proved their strength. On Earth, billions cheered. For the first time, they believed they had a chance. For the first time, they felt that humanity was no longer prey, but something more. In the council chamber, fear whispered through the delegates. If one hidden human weapon could destroy a fleet, what else did Earth have? What other secrets lay waiting beneath their oceans, their mountains, their skies? The galaxy had mocked Earth's weakness, but now they faced a truth far more dangerous. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was rising. And the galaxy's mistake had only just begun. The galaxy had expected Earth to collapse after the first battle, but instead the opposite happened. News spread across the stars of how humanity, a species mocked as weak and primitive, had fought back with terrifying courage. Alien fleets had been torn apart, not by elegance or superior technology, but by human willpower and a hidden warship born from desperation. In the Galactic Council chambers, the once laughing delegates now spoke in hushed tones. Some dismissed it as luck, saying the humans could never repeat such a victory, but others felt unease. "They should have surrendered," one elder whispered. "But they did not. They never do." On Earth, the victory became a spark that united billions. Where there had once been division, now there was determination. Old rivalries were set aside, borders mattered less, and the human race moved with one purpose: survival. Shipyards worked day and night, building new vessels. Factories turned to weapons production. Even colonies on the Moon and Mars contributed, offering every resource they had. Humanity had tasted the galaxy's arrogance, and now they hungered for respect. The alien fleet that survived the battle limped back to its masters, bringing reports of humiliation. Their commanders demanded explanations. How did primitive humans build such a weapon? But no answer came. Some suggested it was stolen technology, others claimed it was luck, but deep down, fear began to grow. The Council tried to calm the galaxy, declaring that Earth remained weak, that one victory meant nothing, but the truth spread faster than lies. Every species heard the rumors. Humanity fought like no other, humanity refused to die, humanity had a fire the galaxy could not extinguish. More fleets were sent, larger this time, with stronger ships, determined to prove that Earth's first victory was only chance. The battles that followed were brutal. Human fleets were often outnumbered 10 to 1, their weapons weaker, their ships slower, yet still they fought with a defiance that shook their enemies. Every battle was a storm of sacrifice. Captains who refused to abandon their stations even as their ships burned, soldiers who gave their lives to protect civilians, pilots who turned their last breath into a final strike. Again and again, the aliens declared humanity would break, and again, humanity stood unbroken. In space, human tactics became legendary. They did not fight like other species. They fought unpredictably, using tricks and strategies the galaxy considered foolish. They turned wreckage into weapons, debris fields into traps, and dying ships into missiles. To the galaxy, such desperation was madness, but to humans, it was survival. Slowly, victories began to appear. Humanity did not win every battle, but they made every defeat costly, bleeding their enemies in ways they had not expected. The Council's fleets grew frustrated. They had the numbers, they had the technology, but still they could not break the will of Earth. "They should be finished by now," one commander complained. "They lose ships faster than they build them." But another answered with unease. "And yet, no matter how many we destroy, they rise again. Why will they not kneel?" On Earth, leaders reminded their people of their history. Humanity had faced plagues, disasters and wars, yet each time they had risen stronger. Now the challenge was greater than ever, but so was their resolve. The war was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that humanity would never again be mocked or dismissed. Across the stars, whispers spread of something new. Rumors told of a second project, larger and more dangerous than the first. Alien spies reported activity in the asteroid belt, construction on a scale that defied belief. The Council dismissed it as human bluffing, a trick to spread fear. But among the common people of other worlds, the rumors grew. "What are the humans building?" they asked. "If one ship could break a fleet, what will the next one do?" The fear of humanity began to spread faster than the war itself. Even those who had never seen Earth began to feel it. In markets, in homes, in spaceports, stories of human defiance grew. Children of other species played games where they pretended to be humans, standing against impossible odds. Soldiers of alien armies whispered that they would rather face anyone else in the galaxy than a desperate human. Humanity, once mocked as weak, had become a legend of endurance. In the Council, silence often filled the chamber now. Gone were the days of laughter. Delegates argued endlessly. Should they crush Earth with full force or negotiate peace before it was too late? But pride held them back, and fear whispered louder each day. The humans had not yet revealed their new weapon, but the galaxy knew it was coming. Earth was preparing for something greater, something that would prove beyond doubt that their will could not be broken. And as the Council debated, as fleets gathered, as rumors grew, the truth became clear. Humanity was not just surviving. Humanity was rising, and the galaxy had only seen the beginning of their unbroken will. The war had stretched longer than the Galactic Council ever imagined. What was meant to be a quick lesson for a primitive world had turned into a struggle that shook the galaxy. Alien fleets came in waves, stronger each time, but Earth refused to fall. Humanity bled, humanity sacrificed, but humanity never broke. Still, the numbers were against them, and the Council believed it was only a matter of time before the humans were crushed completely. Yet far from the eyes of their enemies, deep within the asteroid belt, humanity was finishing the project that would change everything. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked in silence, their efforts hidden by clever deception. From scattered rocks and drifting debris, they built something so vast that even the boldest human leaders whispered of it in awe. It was not just a ship, it was a titan, a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The day of its reveal came when the largest alien armada yet arrived in the solar system. Hundreds of warships darkened the void, their weapons ready to end the war in one decisive strike. On Earth, fear gripped billions, for their fleets were battered, their defenses worn. The Council commanders were confident, mocking even as they advanced. "The humans are finished," one declared. "Today they kneel, or today they burn." The battle began with fire and chaos. Human ships, outnumbered 10-1, fought desperately, throwing themselves into the storm. Missiles streaked across space, railguns roared, and human courage burned bright, but the enemy pressed closer, their numbers overwhelming. Cities on Earth watched the skies in terror as explosions lit the heavens. Hope began to flicker, and some whispered that perhaps this was the end. Then the void trembled. At first, it was a shadow on the edge of sensors, so massive that alien commanders dismissed it as a trick, a sensor error. But as it moved, as it emerged from behind the cover of asteroids, the truth struck them like thunder. A ship so large it dwarfed everything around it came into view. Its hull stretched for kilometers, armored with layers thicker than any fleet had ever carried. Its engines burned like suns, shaking the void with power. And across its surface bristled weapons, railguns the size of mountains, missile silos capable of swallowing cities, energy cannons that glowed like the heart of stars. The humans called it Titan. To the galaxy, It looked like a monster born of nightmares. The alien fleets hesitated, their laughter gone, replaced by silence and dread. "That cannot be human," one commander whispered, his voice shaking. "No primitive race could build that." But it was human, built not with elegance but with determination, not with galactic wisdom but with sheer will to survive. As Titan moved forward, the battlefield seemed to tilt. Human ships, once on the edge of collapse, roared with new courage, rallying around their behemoth. The alien commanders ordered their fleets to fire, desperate to bring the monster down before it reached them. Thousands of beams, missiles, and torpedoes struck its hull, but the Titan endured. Its armor glowed, its shields flared, but it pressed on, unstoppable. Then, with a soundless roar, it fired. One railgun slug tore through an alien battleship as if it were paper, splitting it into two burning halves. A swarm of missiles followed, weaving through defenses, exploding with such force that 3 more ships vanished in seconds. Its energy cannons lit up the void, beams slicing through cruisers with surgical precision. Entire wings of enemy vessels broke apart in moments, their wreckage drifting like shattered bones. The alien armada panicked. Ships turned, captains screamed, commanders ordered retreats, but Titan was already upon them. It moved like a predator, slow yet inevitable, crushing everything in its path. Human fleets pressed the attack with renewed fury, no longer prey but hunters alongside their creation. The council, watching from afar, sat in horrified silence. The reports were undeniable. Humanity had built a warship larger and deadlier than anything the galaxy possessed. It was not just a defense, it was a declaration. Earth was no longer the weak, primitive world they had mocked. Earth was a power to be feared. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was clear from the moment Titan fired its first shot. The alien armada, the pride of the council, was shattered. Wreckage drifted through the solar system, a graveyard of arrogance. Humanity had not only survived, it had won. On Earth, billions wept with relief and pride. The Titan had turned despair into victory, weakness into strength, fear into power. But in the hearts of the galaxy's rulers, terror grew. If humanity could build such a monster in secret, what else could they build? If this was their beginning, what would their future hold? The council realized too late that mocking Earth had been their greatest mistake. For now, the galaxy stood at a turning point. Humanity had shown its hand, and the universe would never look at Earth the same way again. The destruction of the council's armada spread through the galaxy like a storm. Entire worlds that had once laughed at Earth now whispered in fear. Rumors of the Titan-class warship traveled faster than light, carried by fleeing survivors and intercepted transmissions. Every report told the same story: humanity had done the impossible. A single world, mocked as weak and primitive, had stood against the might of the galaxy and prevailed. In the council chamber, silence replaced laughter. Delegates who had once shouted for Earth's destruction now argued in panic. Some demanded peace, warning that humanity was more dangerous than they had believed, while others still clung to pride, insisting that humans must be crushed before their strength grew further. But for the first time in living memory, no clear decision could be reached. Fear had broken their unity. Across alien empires, soldiers whispered about the battle. They had seen recordings of the Titan tearing through fleets, its weapons shattering ships in a single strike. Some refused to fight humans, claiming it was suicide. Others began to admire them, calling humanity the warriors of legend. Even among civilians of other races, the name of Earth spread as a tale of defiance. Children played games where they pretended to be humans standing against impossible odds. Merchants told stories of human bravery to sell goods. The very species once mocked had become a symbol across the stars. On Earth, leaders understood the weight of their victory. They knew the galaxy would never forgive such humiliation, but they also knew they had bought time. Shipyards doubled their efforts, building more vessels, more weapons, and more defenses. Scientists worked on new projects, learning from every battle, every failure. The Titan had turned the tide, but humanity knew the war was far from over. Still, there was a new fire in their spirit. No longer were they fighting simply to survive. They were fighting to claim their place among the stars. In secret, messages began arriving from unexpected sources. Smaller civilizations, long bullied by the Council, reached out to Earth. Some offered supplies, others intelligence. They saw in humanity the hope of rebellion, the chance to rise against the powers that had oppressed them for centuries. For the first time, Earth was no longer alone. The Council watched this with dread. Humanity's victory was not only military, it was political, cultural, and psychological. Their enemies feared them, and their potential allies admired them. Every day the balance of power shifted further. Yet still, the Council hesitated. They had the fleets, they had the numbers, but they no longer had certainty. What if humanity had built more than one Titan? What if Earth held even darker secrets in its arsenals? No one could answer, and the unknown became more terrifying than any weapon. In the shadows of the chamber, one elder finally spoke. We mocked them because they were different. We believed weakness where there was strength. Now they are aflame, and flames spread. If we do not tread carefully, that flame will become a firestorm that consumes us all. His words carried a truth none wanted to admit. For generations, the Council had ruled unchallenged, believing no new species could threaten their order. But now, humanity stood as a living reminder that arrogance could destroy empires. Across the galaxy, fear turned into caution. Patrols that once harassed human ships kept their distance. Spies sent to Earth vanished without a trace, their fates never reported. Some empires began to withdraw their fleets, unwilling to risk open battle with a species that seemed to grow stronger the more it was challenged. The Council tried to project strength, but cracks showed in their facade. For every delegate calling for war, another whispered of negotiation. For every empire demanding humanity's destruction, another secretly prepared envoys to reach out with offers of alliance. The galaxy had entered a new age, one where every decision was shaped by the shadow of Earth. Meanwhile, humanity did not forget the insults, the mockery, the attacks. They remembered every word spoken against them, every ship sent to destroy them, every life lost in the battles. And though they now held the advantage, they made no move for peace. Instead, they waited, watched, and prepared. The Council had once declared them weak, but now it was the Council that trembled. Humanity had proven it could not be crushed, could not be silenced, could not be broken. And deep within their hidden shipyards, new projects began, darker and more ambitious than Titan. Projects whispered of not just defense, but conquest. The galaxy did not yet know what was coming, but it felt the fear growing with every passing day. Humanity had risen from mockery to power, from weakness to legend. And now the galaxy faced a choice: bow before Earth, or burn. The galaxy had reached a point it had never imagined. Once, Earth was nothing but a backwater planet, mocked as weak and ignored by the great powers. Now, it was the name whispered in every council, the word spoken with fear in every fleet, the legend told in every marketplace. Humanity had survived every battle, had stood against impossible odds, and had unleashed weapons that shook the stars themselves. Yet the war was not only about ships and weapons, it was about respect, about proving to the galaxy that humanity was no longer prey. The Galactic Council called one final meeting, the largest in history, with representatives from every major empire. The chamber that once rang with laughter now trembled with unease. No one dared to joke about humans anymore. The scars of Titan still haunted their memories. The debate raged for days. Some demanded humanity be crushed before they grew even stronger. Others warned that any attack might trigger a war of extinction, one the galaxy could not survive. Fear and pride clashed in every speech, but no agreement could be reached. Finally, the doors of the chamber opened, and for the first time, human representatives walked into the heart of galactic power. They came not as beggars, not as supplicants, but as equals. Their presence alone silenced the hall. The lead ambassador stood tall, his voice steady as it carried through the translators. "You mocked us," he said. "You called us weak, you tried to break us, and you thought we would kneel. But humanity does not kneel. We endure, we fight, and we rise. Every fleet you sent burned, every weapon you used failed, every attempt to silence us only made us stronger. And now you understand the truth. His words cut through the chamber like a blade. We do not seek your approval. We do not ask for your permission. We take our place among the stars by right, paid for in blood, in fire, and in will. Mock us again, and your worlds will burn. The silence that followed was heavier than any weapon. No delegate dared to answer. They all knew it was no empty threat. They had seen Titan tear fleets apart. They had heard the whispers of new human projects, darker and deadlier than anything revealed. Humanity did not bluff. Humanity acted. Across the galaxy, the message spread like wildfire. Earth had spoken, and the Council had listened. The balance of power was forever changed. For the first time in thousands of years, the Council was afraid not of an empire, but of a single world united by survival and fury. On Earth, the people celebrated not with arrogance but with pride. They knew the war had cost them dearly, but they also knew they had proven themselves. They had earned their place in the galaxy not by asking, but by fighting for it. The Titan floated in orbit, a symbol of their strength, but in hidden shipyards, greater projects were already under construction. Weapons that would ensure humanity was never mocked again. The galaxy did not know what those weapons were, but the fear of them was enough to keep fleets away from Earth's borders. For now, peace settled, but it was a fragile peace born of fear, not respect. And humanity remembered. They remembered the laughter, the mockery, the arrogance that had nearly destroyed them. They remembered every ship lost, every life sacrificed. They would not forgive, not yet. In the shadows of the Council, some species began to whisper a new truth. Humanity was not only strong, they were inevitable. They were the storm that rose when least expected, the fire that burned when others thought it was extinguished. And as their legend spread, even their enemies began to admit what they once denied. Humanity had been mocked as weak, but in proving the galaxy deadly wrong, they had become something greater than feared. They had become unforgettable. The Council had given them no choice, and now the galaxy itself would live with the lesson. Earth would never again be dismissed. Earth would never again be silenced. The galaxy had mocked humanity's weakness, but in the end, it was the galaxy that trembled at humanity's wrath.